In this video, we're going to take a look at content-aware scaling, which is an incredible feature of Photoshop CS5, allowing you to rescale a layer while maintaining important features so that you do not get a lot of heavy distortion. Now, the algorithm itself is pretty good at identifying things like architecture versus natural things, which can be distorted a little bit more. It doesn't always get things absolutely perfect, but it is extremely useful. Now, what I have here is a lighthouse image which was included along with the Windows 7 sample images. You can really use any image that you like. Ideally, grab something that has a building with it. But I have taken this and set the background to an actual layer so that I can scale it. Now, to perform content-aware scaling, we just have to go under the Edit menu and jump down to Content-Aware Scale. Alternatively, you can use Alt, Shift, Control, and C all at the same time. So if I hit that, boom. Now, this looks exactly like our regular scale tool, but it's a little different in how it responds. Check it out. If I start to squash this in, take a look at what's happening. The lighthouse has changed shape only a little bit. Actually, most of the shape of the lighthouse has been maintained, but everything over here where we have a lot of these natural rock features, these are all crushing in to give us a much thinner image. Now, if you want to see the difference between what goes on with content-aware scale versus regular scaling, there's an amount slider up here in the options bar. Now, a lot of the options that you see here are just like the options for a regular transform. We have things like X and Y position, we have width and height we can play with, but the important stuff for content aware is all here on the right-hand side. So what amount is going to do is scale back the amount of content aware scaling that's taking place. It's kind of like a slider for the algorithm that drives content aware scaling. So as I start to drag this down, you can see we start to get more uniform distortion across the entire image, so that if I bring it all the way to 0, our lighthouse looks very compressed at this point. And as I start to bring that back up, you can actually see how the algorithm was trying to preserve the shape of the lighthouse while crushing down the rocks around it, which is extremely useful. Now, next you have a protect area. This allows you to choose an alpha channel, and the pixel information of that alpha channel will be used to completely protect something so that it will not distort at all. And I'll show you how that works here in just a moment. Next, we have the ability to tell content-aware scaling to automatically protect people using skin tones. The catch to this is that right now I don't have a picture with any skin tones on it, and rather than make one, I did want to point something out that at least proves that this does work reasonably well. Photoshop sees a lot of the tones that take place here on the side of our lighthouse as being within skin tone range. So as I start to scale in, look at what happens to the lighthouse. All of these areas where Photoshop is detecting something that is close to a skin tone, they're all being protected while the rest of the lighthouse itself is being crushed down. So those are getting priority. It's an interesting thing. Now, if you have a picture with some people in it, you can really see how that comes to life. But let's take a look at this protect dropdown in particular. If I come over to channels, I can create a selection and then save that out as an alpha channel, kind of like saving a selection. And I can use that in the protect dropdown to choose what I'd like to protect. Now let's hit escape and get out of content aware scaling. And what I'm going to do is create a selection that goes just around my lighthouse. So just enclose all of those pixels like so. Now with that selection done, I'll come over to my channels panel. At the very bottom, I have a drop-down that allows me to save a selection, or basically this creates an alpha channel. It's called alpha 1, but you can see the information is black with white at the location of that selection. I can now hit Control D. Let's name this too. I'll double click the name and we'll call this Lighthouse, like so. Now we'll go back to our RGB channels. I'll click back on my layers panel. And now let's hit Control, Alt, Shift, and C again for content-aware scaling. And now let's just crush this down again, just like we did before. And you can see that the lighthouse is being preserved pretty well. But if you get into some really dramatic scaling, you're still losing a lot of your shape. If you absolutely cannot allow that to happen, we can now go under Protect, and now you see Lighthouse here, named after that alpha channel that we created earlier. And now as I scale that in, notice that the lighthouse is being completely saved. It's not moving at all. So I can scale the rest of this down. I mean, something reasonable might be as far in as about here. And press Enter. And to the untrained eye, nobody's going to even look twice at that. It'll just look like everything really was a bit smaller when the image was taken. So that is a look at content-aware scaling. It's very, very useful if you need to resize an image that does have a lot of natural features, especially repetitive features that can be cleaned up in the background automatically without you having to worry about it. That will wrap things up for this video. Thanks for watching.